So real quickly, I'm going to discuss how to edit the animations and the TMB files of movement abilities. Now this is something that if you're new to making ability mods, you definitely don't want to mess with this. It can be very it can be dangerous, difficult. If you mess something up, it can cause a lot of red flags. So to begin, I choose an animation. Whenever doing ability alterations, I usually start with animations because generally once you get an animation that you like or that works, you can then craft the visual effects or the sound effects around it. But the other way around, it's difficult. It's more difficult, I think. So for this animation, I'm choosing Dragon Song Dive, or not Dragon Song Dive, Dragon Sky Dragon Dive. Um, and this is another ability that used to be a movement ability. I think it still is on Dragoon. So when you come into a PAP file and you're gonna make it into a movement ability file, I usually use the animation path code of the original of the ability I am replacing. So not the source ability, but the one that I plan to replace. And the animation code is this right here. This is the name, but if you come here to animation, oops, wrong one, to animation, you'll find this path. This is the animation path code, the animation path, animation code, whatever you want to call it. But this code is very specific and it has to match in both places here, and it has to match your TMB file. So when doing a movement ability replacement, you really want to craft everything around your TMB, not craft the TMB around other things. The reason for that is the TMB is very sensitive to changes in its hex code. So basically, if you have hex code and you change the length of a file path within it, it causes things in the code to shift. And what that does is it can cause the TMB's movement aspects to break or be slightly off. So you have to change the code in the PAP file and not the TMB file. You can also, of course, get the code for the TMB file from the TMB itself. So, and in the editor, you'll generally find that uh, you won't find your TMB files. So if I go to the TMB editor and I search under actions for Crimson, just Crimson, see, you won't see Crimson Cyclone. See Crimson Strike, but not Crimson Cyclone. So to get the TMB, I can come here though, and if you search Crimson in the TMB editor, you can find the path here, and this button right here will copy it. Then I come to the TMB editor and paste it in here, select, and now I have my TMB for Crimson Cyclone. Now when editing a TMB file, you never touch anything in red. Don't touch the F curves. Um, the only thing you would ever really want to change, the only thing you can really change safely is the timing. So if I change this to 5 or 0, I can do that. But if I do something with the visual effect file path, I don't want to change the length of the file path. It is very important not to change the length of the file path. The reason for that is changing the length of the file path, again, changes the shift of your hex code. You have to be careful not to do that. It actually might be easiest to even show you what the hex code looks like. So I'm going to export this. I'll just save it here. And on the side here, I'm going to pull up a hex code edit, or hex code editor called hex edit. I'm going to open that, the one I just saved. So here is the hex code of my movement ability. And at the bottom here, you can see you have the file paths. You can recognize these file paths here for the visual effects. You have the animation code. You have this is a TMB code. So if I come here, a TMB code is this. You also have, pull that back up here. You also have your sound file path and another visual effect file path. So all of these, you want these to remain exactly the same length. You don't want to edit these in a movement ability. It will throw off, it'll change your hex code and change its length. It becomes very it'll crash your game basically if you change these lengths. So never change these lengths. But what you can do is you can put characters in the path code to fill the length. So if I want to remove the TMB from playing, I just change the path code to the same, or replace part of it with zeros. And that will cancel that from, or stop that from working. I can also change the timing of like the animation. These right here, like these fields, oops, wrong thing. These fields are essentially like these numbers. So if you change that field, it doesn't change a character here, it changes a character over here. And that's fine. You can change that. So if I want, say, this animation to be delayed by 2 frames, I can put a 2 here. Or I can put a 5. I can even go double digits and put a 10. Because all it does is it changes the character on the left side of the hex code and not on the right side. Same with visual effects. So timing you can change, you can make adjustments to that. But here, if you want to cancel a visual effect from playing or something, or you want to, I don't know, well, say you want to cancel it. That's usually the main reason for editing this path anyways. You have to keep it the same length. Same with sound effects. I can't delete the sound effect because that'll affect the length of the hex code. But I can change a part of the sound effect to cancel it from actually playing. And so I've already set up a TMB here that I've edited for Crimson Cyclone. So as you can see, I put zeros there. For the sound to not play, I put in a 0 there. But the file paths are all the same. And I've grabbed my animation path code, copy it here, and I've put it in here for my Crimson Cyclone. Now, when editing a movement ability, since you can't change the hex code or you don't want to change the length of a hex code from the TMB, a lot of the things I normally put in the TMB file, I will put in the PAP file. So with the PAP, I can put things like invisibility. I can add invisibility frames. I can add a summon weapon or a summon weapon animation. But yeah, it's very important not to. The TMB is the most important part of an animation or a movement ability. And so this is what I have. And the rest of it is just visual effects editing. You can, when you're editing the visual effect, you can do basically anything you want within the visual effect editor. That you're fine to change this just like any other ability. Um, it, the visual effects themselves are safe. It all comes down to your TMB file. And that is how to edit a movement ability.